Hello and welcome to this episode of Start Being Visible. This is the podcast dedicated to inspiring, motivating, and equipping you to step out of the shadows and into the limelight in your work life. Now, today's guest is Nisha Chandra. Now, Nisha is a detective, a TEDx speaker, and a passionate advocate for female leadership and empowerment. Nisha is known as the Punjabi Cockney Detective, and she's a South Asian woman in long-term recovery from alcohol addiction who has chosen to be unapologetically visible about topics many people shy away from. This includes cultural shame and silence, mental health, baby loss. So we're going to talk about all of this in today's conversation. And of course, we're going to touch on the role visibility has played in her career today. So with that, Nisha, welcome to Start Being Visible.
Thank you, Mildred, for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here. But first of all, right, let's get the East London thing out the way, right? Because I heard you grew up in East London, as I did.
Yeah.
So where in East London did you grow up?
So I was born in Newham, so Newham General. I'm a Newham General baby. We lived there, I think, for about, I don't know, a couple years, and then mum and dad and grandparents and us, we moved to Goodmayes, which comes under Redbridge. And then I spent 10 amazing years of my career in the proper East End, which is Bethnal Green, Tower Hamlets, Hackney. So that's where the East London comes from. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I grew up in Leighton, lived in Walthamstow, then Leighton, used to hang out in Stratford, visited Forest Gate Market,
Yeah. Yeah. I still go to Walthamstow Market on a Saturday every now and then with my mum.
Yeah,
I love a good market.
That is the one. That market's the one. My mum, I have torturous experience, and my mum used to make me drag her trolley. We didn't have a car, so it was highly embarrassing and ruined any street cred I had. But we did the whole length of Wolverhampton Market, dragging trolley and bargaining at every store to get the best deal.
Absolutely. It's got to be done, right?
It's got to be done. Yeah. I love that. So here you are growing up in East London, and then somehow you have ended up working for the police force as a detective. Like just let's just rewind there. Was this something that as a little girl you're like, oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna work for the police? Because I don't know many Black and brown people who have that kind of ambition from young for different reasons. So tell me where that story began for you.
It did begin when I was younger. It's funny you mentioned that because only like about 6 months ago, in school we used to get the record of achievement books in primary school. They're like yay high and they were maroon coloured. So I stumbled upon mine from age 8 and I opened it because it's all around my mum's gaff. I opened it and then it says, when Nisha grows up, she wants to be, and I drew what was my depiction of a police officer and I wrote that down. Mm-hmm. So I always share this, like maybe from such a young age, I was always manifesting that I wanted to end up in the old bill. It's not something that is, it was a difficult choice and it involved difficult conversations, but I think I've always wanted to do it. And then I couldn't have done it if I was 18, put it that way, Mildred. I needed to get life experience out of the way first and knowing how to talk to people before I entered a role. I mean, I joined at 28, so I needed to be able to build my foundations before I entered a role, which is very public facing. So that's how it all kind of began. So I've always wanted to do it since a child.
But can you trace that? Was there anyone in your family in the police force? Anyone on TV? Like what? Can you trace where that desire came from?
I really don't know. There's no one in my family, even till this day, that is police, kind of in the police service. I don't remember having any kind of idols or inspirations growing up in that level, in that industry either. I think the only time we've had like police input in school was when we did cycling proficiency at primary school, kind of cycling around the playground and how to be very, mindful of cycling on the road. And it was a police officer called Steve who was running it. But that's the only kind of interaction that I've had with old Bill. But yeah.
The fact that you remembered his name was probably memorable on a subconscious level.
Yeah. I've never actually, that's the first time I thought, oh my God, yeah, his name was Steve. So yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating. So you said that you needed to have life experience first and you didn't join until you're 28. So what was that pathway like? So you start off with this dream and then what did you study? What life experience did you get? I'm assuming you did other jobs before you then changed your career.
So I think did my GCSEs, did relatively well. Same with my A levels. I stayed on in the sixth form that I did my GCSEs in. And then university came about. And that's when everything changed for me, and not in a good way at all. I feel like, I know we will talk about it as time progresses, but I feel like that's where a very deep, dark, insidious disease started to form. And in my kind of 20s, I know I joined when I was 28, but I don't think in my early or mid 20s I would have been ready to join the police in the state that I was in. So I needed to get that out of the way, get a bit better, so to speak, and learn how to interact with people. We all do retail jobs, don't we, when we're younger? And having kind of customer service in your pocket or in your CV, and I think that's a massive help. Even if you're a very kind of timid person, if you do like a retail job, you've got no choice but to interact with your customers and whomever walks into the shops. So I think that was a good kind of stepping stone for me.
Are you a timid person?
I was, but hell, not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah.
Okay. What changed for you then? So would you describe yourself, your natural personality, as an introvert, extrovert, a little bit of both, or you don't subscribe to any of that?
I can be a little bit of both. I think when I need to be quiet and grounded, I can be quite vulnerable. I think we all can, can't we? But then, doing things like this, having conversations with lovely people like you, I'm an extrovert when it comes to things like this. So I think it's a good balance between the both.
Okay. So because the way you're so defiant about timid, no, hell no, that's fun. So it seems like that was something, like a marker in your life. Was there a point where you crossed over from being timid to not being timid? And was that prior to the police force or afterwards?
It was definitely afterwards, during, and it started within the police service. It took some time to get out of the complete timidness, but I would definitely say that being in this job has enabled me to be able to speak and be able to speak my truth.
Okay, so you go to uni and you fall down this path that you say was a dark time for you. And was that the time when the whole alcoholism that you speak about, is that when that came into your life?
Yeah, 100%. It started at university for me, because I think with uni life, it's like student life is so cheap and cheerful when it comes to alcohol. Belonging to quite a strict South Asian family, and then living out in my final year with no parents and no restrictions, it was just like, oh my God, I've got so much freedom. I can do anything. And that is pretty much what I did. I didn't know what to do with that freedom, and it kind of dug its claws in me quite badly.
How did it affect you? Did it affect your studies, or was it what were you done by this time?
I didn't graduate at university. I'd done like the first 2 years, the final year, after much rebelling with my parents about moving out. I decided to move out because I didn't want to have any regrets later on in life, thinking, oh, I wonder, what if, or I wonder what it would have been like if I did move out. So that was a massive deal for me, and being there was just overwhelming. I didn't finish university. I just got so engrossed in the student lifestyle of partying and going out and just doing silly things that I stopped attending lectures, in fact, so I didn't graduate.
Okay. Did you later go back and complete your studies? And what were you studying at the time?
So I was at the University of Westminster, and I was studying urban development, which is about regeneration. So if there's quite a, how do I describe it, like a derelict place in a derelict land in an area, you regenerate it. What can we do? Can we build housing? Can we build community spaces? Can we build schools? It's just doing that. And I didn't really have a passion for it. I think I just went to uni because that's what you're told to do by parents at that age. And then, yeah, that was pretty much it. That course I didn't do, so to speak. Didn't go back to finish it. I didn't have the passion for it anyway, so I thought I'm not going to go back. Even later on in life, even like now, I wouldn't go back.
Just wasn't the right fit for you.
No, it really wasn't. No.
So when did the police work start forming in your head and your heart? When did you start to think, okay, maybe this is the time to pursue that childhood dream?
My dad heard an advert on the radio in, I can't even tell you what year it was, and it's been that long. He said to me, like, we were picking my sister up from work, and she used to work in Romford on like Saturdays, and so we're picking her up, and he's like, Nish, did you hear that there's an advert on the radio about the police recruiting? And I thought, oh my god, they actually are, because there was a massive recruitment kind of, they weren't recruiting for many years, so I couldn't even get in if I tried. So when I heard that advert, I'm like, right, this is my time. I need to do it. This is now or never. And that is what prompted me to start my application. And back then it was all kind of pen to paper. You had to handwrite it. It wasn't online. So I remember really taking my time and figuring out a nice kind of inkish style pen to write out my application form.
Okay. So had you tried to apply before then? Because you said it wasn't, you tried before and it didn't get in. So were you trying to get into the police force and then just doing other jobs while you were waiting?
Yeah.
Or was it different?
So the first time I tried to get in was when I was about 21, and I did all like my application form, did your day one assessment, which I still believe they call it that, and then I didn't get through. And then that was really heartbreaking for me, because I thought, I put so much effort into it, put so much time into it. This is something I really want to do. But when the stars are just not aligning, and there's always a reason why that wasn't my time, because I needed to get better. I needed to mentally and physically get better, heal myself before I could attempt to, help the public, so to speak.
And how did you get better? How did that healing come for you?
As soon as we heard that advert on the radio, I think something just kind of flicked in my head. I thought, right, I need to get my act together. I need to get better. I need to start, because it's with the police assessments, it's like a fitness assessment you've got to do as well. So I'm like, right, I need to start jogging or whatever it is, start going to the gym. And if I need to go to the gym, then I can't be hung over going to the gym. So I need to nip drinking in the bud. It was really, really difficult. So difficult. But I think if you want something a lot, if you want it bad enough, you're willing to make change.
How long did that change take for you to come?
About 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it took over 2 years for me to start healing, start getting better physically, mentally, without alcohol in my system. And then I was able to like apply, because I felt like, okay, I'm in a better position now to apply.
Okay, so you waited to feel better in yourself first before you actually applied.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of patience and dedication, isn't it?
hmm But I
Wow.
didn't want to do it half-heartedly. I wanted to give it my all, and I thought it's the only way I can do it at that time. And I did. Yeah.
Mm. So you said your dad's the one who alerted you to the police advert. So does that mean your parents were supportive of this as a career choice for you?
Not really. They weren't supportive, but
Mm.
they always knew. They knew I was in and out of jobs, and I wasn't kind of satisfied or complete, so to speak. So when Dad heard that advert, I guess, I don't know, maybe he felt obligated to tell me, oh, by the way, they're recruiting, or hearing it together. But I think going, I did have to have like difficult conversations with my whole family, including my grandparents as well, who were like, this isn't a job for a woman. People from our community don't do this. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, and I said to them very clearly, like, if I don't, then who will? If I don't step into those shoes and be not the face, but a face of other girls who might be thinking of joining this male dominated environment, if I don't do it, how are we ever going to make change?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So you were prepared to be a trailblazer.
Yeah, I think so. When I got into the police, I started to get quite timid again, because I was just overwhelmed with what you see on telly versus what it is in real life. And it just hit me. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? But the more I carried on, the more I learned about the different roles, and you know being in uniform like I did when I started, and then ending up in the detective world, I found out, right, this is where I need to be, and this is where I will stay.
Mm. And what is that difference between what we see on TV and real life? Because it seems quite, well, sometimes it seems exciting. You watch programs like The Bill and they're always chasing some criminal,
Yeah.
high speed chase. Is the real life anything like that?
I mean, you do chase criminals. It's, I think, real versus telly. Makes it very entertaining and gripping and suspenseful, whereas in reality, yeah, you can have situations where you are dealing with the highest of the highs and then the lowest of the lows. And when you are dealing with the lowest of the lows, you kind of get compassion fatigue. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of hits you, and then you don't even realize sometimes that you're taking on trauma, you're taking on people's problems. How can it not affect you at some point? So
Mm-hmm.
it's the stresses of the things that we have to witness. And I've witnessed so many heinous things, and yeah, I sometimes I can't even talk to people about it other than people within the job who I know will understand.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can imagine it takes a lot to just go through all of that. So then you apply. Can you tell us about your journey through the police? So you said you started off in uniform and then you went up to detective, and I think you do something different today. So what was that journey like? What were the different steps you took on the way? And how long have you been in the police force now?
11 years. It will be 11 years in October. I've been in. It seems like a lifetime. Like, it doesn't seem like 11 years, but so my journey, I back then it was just kind of one route you can choose, which was uniform first and then whatever else you wanted to go into later. Whereas now there's quite a few options. But I knew that I wanted to become a detective at some point, but I knew that being in uniform is where I would learn my fast paced experience, so to speak. Going to call from call to call, the 999, you know, the rush of it. You build your foundations. And I did that I was in uniform, I want to say, for about 18 months to 2 years. And then the transition is, if you want to become a detective, you've got to sit an exam. So it felt like being back at college again, like sitting in like a multiple choice exam, having to study for that for months, sitting it, passing it, and then you become a trainee. So you then get I can describe it as a portfolio where you have to hit certain criteria within a year or 2 years. So going to a crime scene, leading on X, leading on Y, leading on Z, your decision making, etc., etc. So after you've hit all these long criterias, someone examines it and then passes you yay or nay, and it was a yay for me, and then I became fully fledged.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I want you to share a little bit more about what skills you feel like you need as a detective. But before that, so you're walking into this job in the police force, an environment that is mainly male, mainly white, and here you are, a young Asian woman, because it's also mainly probably older, right? How were you received on your first day, first week?
With my training class, like in training school, I was received fine, because I feel like, because we were all in the same boat, kind of fresh out of life into this training school. So it wasn't bad at all. But then when you're assigned to where you need to be, so when training school is over and you're into this big dark world of policing, that's when I felt like, oh my God, I'm pretty much one of 5 women on this team. We had about 40 people where I first started on a team, and I must have been one of 5 women and the only woman of colour. And I felt so like all eyes were on me. So it was very, very daunting. And I didn't know where I fit either. I didn't quite find my place. Like, was I meant to be one of the boys? Was I meant to be just kind of look straight, head down, get on with it? And that's what I chose. Like, I felt like I had to just kind of get on with it and be quiet, speak when you're spoken to, etc., etc. So the timidness then came back. The thing that I tried so hard to work on to get rid of or manage well, it just came back in an instant.
And did you experience any sexism, racism in your role?
From what I can think of, no. Sexism, no. I didn't feel like I was subject to sexism. Racism, not overtly, not outwardly. I feel some, obviously, people have their views and they probably thought what they wanted about me, but there were certain times in my earlier on career where you feel like, okay, am I being picked on a bit here because I'm posted to something that is not very exciting, and I've been on the same post for, like, I don't know, 6 shifts. You know, is there something going on here? But I didn't have any confidence or any, you know, kind of self-worth to even challenge that, even if I felt like it was worth challenging. Whereas now, be like, yeah, I'm challenging straight up.
And did you find allyship with the other women, you know, in the team, or was it kind of like every woman to themselves?
It was pretty much every woman to themselves, because I felt it was very cliquey. So whereas I was the newbie, I had to earn my way. Whereas they'd been in there for some time and they'd already earned their kind of place in the team. And I felt like I had to do that as time progressed. But I wasn't on that team for a very long time, because as a probationary constable, you're rotated like on different teams and posts. So I was there for about 6 months, and then I was in Safer Neighbourhoods, which was amazing.
Okay, is that when you're patrolling the community type?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
And then the detective training. So you pass your exams, etc., and you qualify as a detective. Now, is that like what it's like on TV? Because I watch a lot of detective programs, etc. So is it like that dramatic? Kind of you're looking for clues and you have to. And what kind of quality and traits do you think you need, or do you have, that made you a good detective?
I think the ability to be very analytical, thinking outside the box, not seeing things for just black and white. There's grey area, there's red, there's pink, whatever bloody, colour area there is. And not believing and not seeing something and taking it as face value. It's about, personally, I think it is very critical thinking, critical minded. Okay, but what if? And having the ability to learn as well. And because some people in any walk of life get very stuck in their way and it's very tunnel vision. But if we were to open the tunnel and a bit widely, there's so many avenues of opportunity and ways we learn. But the real detective world versus TV detective world. I mean, I was watching a program not too long ago and it was a female detective and it was British, and she said to her daughter, I'm a detective, so I'm basically a human lie detector. No, you're not. You're really not.
What program was this, by the way? In case I've seen it.
Oh,
It sounds familiar.
I couldn't even tell you. I'll ask my other half, and then I'll let you know what program it was. But I was watching it. I'm like, yeah, you're not a human lie detector, my darling. You might be able to tell if someone is blatantly lying to you, but your job isn't there to prove, as a lie detector, you've got to face what the evidence is in front of you and then base your evaluation on that. So yeah, being able to interview, being able to ask questions in, even awkward questions, hard questions, studying body language, that is a massive thing as well. So if you're in an interview opposite someone and someone's saying no comment, for example, and you're asking them a question, but subconsciously they're nodding their head, or subconsciously they're saying this, or no comment, or no comment, it's very, you have to look at them as well and pick up on body language. So if someone does that or does that, we'll be like, oh, you nodded there. Does that mean you agree? Or you shook your head there? Is that not what happened? So things like that, being able to challenge as well.
Are you able to switch that off? So like after you leave work and you're hanging with your friends and family, are you still kind of watching their body language and all of that?
You know what? No, I'm very good at leaving work at work and being niche and mum and daughter and wife, whatever other roles I have outside of it. I think it's so important to have that cut-off point. Otherwise, it will just drive you insane. So, yeah, I have that balance. Yeah.
So
Like,
how
goes
do
off. That's it.
yeah, and like because again, so I guess that helps with like being able to leave it, because you said there was you experienced quite a lot of low moments, in the job. So
Yeah.
like what do you how did that so how long were you a detective for, and then how did you transition out of that to what you do now? Because that's not what you do now, is it, in
No.
your work life?
So I'm still a detective.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still within policing, and I've done many roles in my kind of detective life. I've done CID. I've done, I've worked on domestic violence, domestic abuse units, sexual offences unit, child abuse unit. Most things when it comes to safeguarding, I've done. And then before I ended up in the role that I'm currently in, I did outreach recruitment for about 2.5 years, which is going out, speaking to people in hard to reach communities, underrepresented people, and saying to them, if you want to if you want to see change, you've got to be part of the change. So come and join the police on these 4 different pathways that we've got available to you. And we used to do a lot of recruitment fairs and pop-ups and insight events, and I loved it. It was amazing.
How are you generally received in those communities when you go out and say those things?
At first, not very well, but as soon as you start talking, and I think the more human you can be with people, the better. And you know, if you look at me, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm full of tattoos. I'm quite, you know, I'm not the Queen's English spoken. I'm very your normal average working class girl. So when people hear that, they see a bit of themselves in you. So then the guards come down a little bit, and then conversations start to happen, and then you start seeing common grounds like, yeah, I totally understand why you might, you know, you might have that view of the police, but so did I, and that's changed. So did members of my family, and that changed. So it was quite rewarding in the sense of how many people we were able to speak to whose viewpoint changed, and a lot of them actually ended up joining the police, and that, like, you know, that makes my heart so warm.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So then what do you do now in your day job? What realm of the policing are you involved with now?
So I am a tactical policy advisor for all things domestic abuse and harmful practices. So we go around the organisation training. Part of it is training new constables and training and detectives who need that kind of input in terms of what domestic abuse is, how would you investigate it, and what harmful practices are, like female genital mutilation and forced marriage and honour-based violence, because I still feel like not a lot of people know about that. And that's one of my passions, and I love educating people on it.
Do you feel like your presence in the police force, being, a woman, South Asian descent, all of that kind of stuff, do you feel like you've made a difference from the inside? Because you mentioned about the need to be on the inside to make a difference, because we still have the reports that come out that the police is institutionally racist.
Yeah.
So how do you feel that you've contributed to making a difference from the inside?
I feel like when decisions are made, they have to be made with us in mind. And I'm talking about internal decisions mainly. If we don't speak about it, change will never happen, whether I agree with something or I don't. And I feel like I've made, kind of my 2% of difference in this massive organization by doing just that, being authentically me, not changing. I say, well, that's a lie. I have changed, but I have changed for the better. I have found my voice and I have found my confidence to the timid girl that first joined versus what I am now, 11 years later, is completely different. And I'm not afraid to kind of speak my truth in that sense. So yeah, I feel like I have made a difference in that way, being able to be not the face of diversity, but being vocal enough to people who I interact with, whether that's in my personal life or my professional life. Like, yeah, I'm a police officer, but I'm human as well. I'm human first before I am anything. And I think that really does make a difference, being able to speak to someone on a level.
And how did you find that voice and that confidence that you've talked about so much? How did you go from timid to being yourself fully?
To being myself fully. I think, the outreach recruitment role that I was talking about, that really me, because I had no choice but to, again, have these difficult conversations with hard to reach communities. And it really made me have to get out of my shell. But also during that time, I had my baby boy, who is 3 years old now. And when I had him, I thought, okay, I want to be an example for him when he grows up, so that he knows that mummy was never afraid, that mummy always spoke her truth and was always herself. and she wasn't afraid to say anything. And that's what I feel really kind of grounded me and made this voice of mine come out.
And you mentioned your boy, and that's good actually, because again, this might be my impression from the many TV programs, detective programs I watch, but it seems like the work-life balance isn't something that works very well being in the police force. So is that the case?
It can be the case. In a lot of cases, it can definitely be the case. I mean, I know more people than I don't know who are struggling to have that balance. If it's like, even if it's things like shift work, I luckily don't do shift work, because when I had my son, I took a year out of maternity leave, which was just amazing. And then kind of nearer the time when I was due to come back to work, I put in for a flexible shift pattern, which means that I do longer days, but I have more days off during the week so that I can balance childcare. So in that way, because I know exactly what time I'm going to start and exactly what time I'm going to finish, I'm able to have that balance and leave work at work and then come home and be mum to him. But you are right, 9 times out of 10, people are struggling to have that work-life balance.
And is it dangerous? Like, so before you had your son, it's just you out there. But now that you're a mum, are you more aware of the danger of policing?
Yeah, 100%. Luckily he's 3, but I know as he gets older, he's going to want to go out. He's going to want to go out with his friends and be out until silly o'clock. And that does scare me, because I know what it's like policing London, unless I move out into the countryside where, it's a lot safer. I would love to, but not at the moment. But London, I know what it's like, and it does scare me to an extent that he's going to want to be out there and, go out with his mates, for example, and I can't stop him. I can only advise him, but I can't stop him.
Are you scared for yourself being involved in this work, or do you not, or is it not as dangerous because you're not on the street, kind of in your day-to-day?
Yeah, so I feel when I was on the street and was a lot more kind of public facing, I did feel in certain situations that we had to deal with, I did feel like a sense of danger, like, oh my God, what are we walking into? And what if someone's got a knife? What if someone's got this? But then luckily, touch wood, I've not ever had to face a situation where danger was coming at me, like straight up. But I know people do. But for me, it was not like that. So at the moment, I'm okay, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And are you enjoying being a mum?
Yeah, I love it. He's my only child. I love it. It's just blissful. Yeah, he's barking mad, and I think he gets that from my side of the family, and I do wonder where he gets his energy from. But it's all part of the process, and yeah, I'm really enjoying being a mum.
I love that. But prior to that, and you've spoken out publicly about this as well, so because you're part of many kind of baby loss awareness campaigns, and it's something that you advocate for. So was it 4 babies that you lost prior to having your son?
So I lost 2 prior to him, and then 2 after him, with the most recent one being in May this year. So yeah, it was a very tough time, to say the least. And I feel like, I don't know, society doesn't let you really bereave or grieve something that you didn't physically hold, or something that wasn't really technically there. And I know baby was there, of course I do, but it wasn't present. I wasn't, it wasn't there to touch, and it can become difficult when you're grieving and when you're sad.
I know, I can imagine. And again, on the cultural side of that, that's something that culturally, it's not something that's spoken about in South Asian communities, and maybe also in some Black communities as well, kind of speaking up about things like this. So have you faced backlash? Have you faced criticism for like how vocal you are and the things that you're vocal about?
Sometimes from people I do. So LinkedIn is very kind of what I've discovered, it's very written. Videos don't tend to do as good on LinkedIn as they do, I don't know, compared to Instagram, and that's just my view on it. But yeah, I do have messages from people on Instagram, like, especially when I talk about my alcohol addiction. What are you doing? You're bringing shame among the community. Can you just shut up? And that's just the nice comments, the nice hate comments. But people have said some horrible, nasty things, and it just makes me think, well, I'm just kind of telling my story. Why are you hating on me? And that's for my own people. So it is a massive stigma, baby loss and other taboo subjects.
How do you deal with that? Because that is part of the, shall I call it, penalty of being visible, and something that for that a lot of women don't want to put themselves out there and speak up. So how do you deal with those kind of criticism and comments and still show up day after day?
I have a very good support system around me, in the form of my husband, in the form of, select few friends. And when I do get comments like that, it brings me down a little bit. And then I would talk to my support network about it, and they lift me back up and they remind me of why I'm doing it in the first place. Because sometimes when you receive such comments, you forget, and then you start to second guess yourself, like, oh, am I doing something wrong here? But even if me speaking my truth can help one person out of 10 people that may not like what I'm saying, that one person is enough for me. Someone once said to me, you're not going to be for everybody, but you will be for somebody. And that's somebody who needs to hear how, for example, how hurtful and how, sad baby loss is, as a South Asian woman or a South Asian dad or anyone who needs to hear it. It will touch someone. And that's what keeps me going.
Do you remember the first time you were publicly vulnerable, whether it's about your alcoholism or the baby loss?
Yeah, I do. It was something completely unrelated. Like the first time it happened, it was from my TEDx talk. So I just clipped it a little bit, like 10 seconds, and I posted it on Instagram. And then I thought, oh, this is good. I'm new to this world, and this is getting like so many views, until I looked at the comment section, and I was getting abuse and hate. And I said to my brother, I goes, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I'm just going to disable my account. I can't take this anymore. This world is not for me. But he was like, no, let them. Just let them. But yeah, it was, it did make me feel vulnerable, and I was ready to like, just be like, oh, it's not for me. It's not for
What
me.
did you talk about? Because what's your TED talk about? TEDx talk?
So it's called Claiming Your Seat, and it's about the importance of representation, no matter what kind of field you're into. So when decisions are made for us, we should be consulted. And if we're not given a seat at the table, then how can change ever happen? We need to be in it to win it. So accept me. My ethnicity or my representation is my superpower, and I will bring it with me to that table as my superpower. So you can listen to me and make a decision, because I'm part of that decision-making process.
I'm waiting to hear the bit that got people angry.
Yeah, so because in the talk I reflect on my East London upbringing versus my South Asian versus my professional side, and I made a gesture, and to me it was completely innocent. Maybe I didn't do my research, but my intention was not to cause offense to anybody. And basically there's a phrase in which I thought was a cultural phrase. Turns out it's not. It's a religious phrase called Jardi Kala. And what that means is remaining in a high state of spirits. So I said Jardi Kala as a cultural phrase, and then I slapped my thigh and I went like that as I said it. And I thought that thigh slap and the finger raised in the air meant, yeah, like I'm here. You've got no, you've got no choice but to listen to me. But apparently, no, it's a sign of speaking to the enemy. It's a sign of saying to your enemy, like, yeah, come at me. And I'm not going to use swear words, but that's what it is. And I didn't know that. So a lot of people from our community were hailing all sorts of abuse at me for that. And it was totally innocent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's the thing about the internet, isn't it? Is people can interpret things however, and then just spew out whatever in response. Is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. But also in your line of work though, as a policewoman and with involved in the police, how do you balance that whole vulnerability and visibility with also remaining an authority in your role at work?
What I've realised that it's okay to be vulnerable but still be vocal and still be visible, because vulnerability sometimes needs to be visible as well with the higher ups who have power, or with victims, for instance. So if I was dealing with a victim and showing empathy, some might see that as a vulnerability, but for me, being empathetic with a victim is making them realize that I get it. Like, I'm not there to judge you, I'm there to help you. So in that sense, yeah, you've got to be, sometimes you've got to be vulnerable to make that victim feel like they can trust you and that you're there to help them. But internally, I feel like, being vulnerable is not necessarily a bad thing either, because it just shows how stuff is affecting you. And I think people higher up do need to see that sometimes.
Have you ever had backlash internally from your vulnerability or visibility?
No, not. I can't say that I have. I can't say that I have. I've not ever been told to, like, not say this or not do that, or don't post this, or don't apply for this or anything like that. It's generally it's been quite well received. So I've been touch wood lucky in that sense. But even if it wasn't, I would have no kind of I've had no problems to raise it if something I felt very passionately about that needed to be addressed.
Well, that's good, because that's a fear a lot of women have about showing up and being visible when they have a day job, is the whole how is that going to impact on my work? What will my boss think? What will my colleagues think? So you seem to have just kind of pressed through all of this, I guess as part of this whole process of finding your voice and confidence.
Yeah. It's taken a while to find it, and I just feel like, I'm just getting started. This isn't the end of anything that I've got to say. And the culture and the community that I come from are very silencing of women anyway. If you're not a victim of sexism or misogyny, like, normally you're a victim of being silenced by your family as a woman, because we're there to be seen, not heard. You're there to be the dutiful daughter or the dutiful daughter-in-law. You're not there to say yes or to say no. You're just there, show up, do your thing, and not question anything. So having that as a stigma attached to then doing a role where you have to be absolutely visible and you have to speak to people, and your face matters, or your voice or your presence matters, it can be conflicting at times. And I did feel like that in the beginning, but I knew from a very early age that I wasn't going to be conforming to what my parts of my culture want a woman to be.
I love that. I love that. So that's a really great place actually to end it, because I feel like there's a lot that your confidence in just being yourself, it absolutely shines through.
Thank
So yeah, there's somebody listening to this, maybe she's from a South Asian culture as well, maybe not, maybe she's from another background, but
you.
because it is something women across the board. In my work, I work with women primarily to help them
Yeah.
find and use their voice and, be visible online and beyond. But so that is something a lot of women struggle with. So what advice would you give somebody who's listening to this and they're like, I've got things to say, I've got things that I've been through that could
Mm.
possibly help someone, but I'm scared. I'm scared of speaking out. I'm scared of using my voice. How did you get started and what would you tell them?
I would tell them that there is someone in this world that is dying and absolutely desperate to hear what you've got to say. Be that someone for that person, even if it's one person. That could make the world of difference to that one person who has similarities with your story or your struggles, your trials and tribulations. Because if you don't speak, then who will? Who's going to speak? How are we ever going to be able to make change? How are we ever going to be able to heal people? And I'm not a healer, I'm just saying, kind of metaphorically speaking. But your story does matter. It matters. It matters not only to you, it matters to me. It matters to the people that need to hear it. And yes, fear comes into it. Whereas, I'm scared about, I don't know, getting backlash, for example. Ignore them. They're only gonna give you backlash because it's touched a nerve with them. That's what I've come to notice anyway. So the people who might have an opinion or might not agree with it because it's touched a nerve and they're not willing to confront that yet. So you've actually done a really good job, and having that not so nice comment is still a comment, and you've touched a nerve with them.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a healthy way to put it,
Yeah.
definitely. So, and yeah, absolutely. It's often because you've connected, you've triggered somebody, and they don't
Yeah.
know how to deal with it, that they lash out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
100%.
Oh wow, that is so good. But Nisha, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm very sure that it is gonna help somebody on this podcast. So how do we plug into more of what you do? What's the best way for people to connect with you, your work, and maybe reach out?
LinkedIn is, I'm always quite active on there. As you know, you and I came from a LinkedIn connection, didn't we? So Nisha Chandra on LinkedIn, and then Instagram, my name as well. You'll be able to find me to look at kind of more speaking and more about my addiction, so to speak. So yeah, watch this space. That's all I can say.
Fantastic. And of course, there's your TEDx talk that we want to watch as well. So
God, how can I forget about that? Oh, I always forget. So that's on YouTube as well under my name. If you just type in Nisha Chandra TEDx, it will come up, claiming your seat.
fantastic. I will add the links to all of this in the show notes. But Nisha, it's been brilliant having you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for you busting some myths for me as personally about the police force. So so it's good that you've had such a positive experience of it, and I'm hoping that it will help somebody else in this podcast too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mildred, for having me.